It's Wednesday morning in Bulgaria. Most people are at work or at the beach. I am at Sofia Airport, where I'm getting ready to take off on a 9-day Central Europe trip. I will be spending a day and a night in Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia, followed by an internationalization conference that I'm attending in Vienna, and then I will be visiting some refugees in Switzerland, of all countries. It's time now for me to get through security and board the plane, and let's see how this 9-day trip in Central Europe unfolds. Good evening from Bratislava, Slovakia. I'm in the central square of the old town in Bratislava. The old town is very quaint. That's how I would best describe it. You can take a look. I'll give you a view. I just took a tour, and I'm probably going to wait till tomorrow morning before I head out of town to give you some of my thoughts on Bratislava and Slovakia in general. But I thought, for now at least, since it's evening and very lovely out here, I'd just give you a little bit of a glimpse of Bratislava's center and old town. It used to be surrounded by walls. There are a few walls left, but it's very open now. A little touristy, not as touristy as some people would probably like, and at the same time probably more touristy than others would like. I'm a little short on time, but I want to give you a peek at the view from, how do you pronounce it? Bratislavski Grad? I don't know. Anyway, we're entering Bratislava Castle, and I'm just going to give you a peek at the view from up here. Here's Bratislava Castle, not the most impressive of castles, but the view here is quite nice and fairly interesting. So now, if you can battle the sun, you are overlooking the Danube River. Bratislava is one of the 4 capitals that sits on the Danube. It's the smallest and least prominent of them. I'll get into that in a bit shortly. And I guess the icon of the city, sad to say, is this piece of communist architecture. It's the New Bridge, or some people call it the UFO Bridge. I think you can see why. And even though it's a bit hazy and we're looking in the sun, maybe you can make out that on the other side of the river there are rows of communist block apartments, or as they call them, panel homes. Not the most impressive architecture, but the other side of the river is much nicer. It's got the old town. Yeah, so I'm gonna walk back to the old town now and chat a little bit about, actually, one thing that I'm gonna mention is how from here you can actually see both Austria, which is very close, those windmills, which are hard to see because of the haze, but those windmills are in Austria, go figure, and well beyond some smokestacks and other stuff over here, or maybe not that far beyond, is Hungary. So from this view you can actually see 2 other countries in addition to the New Bridge and the lackluster communist architecture. Alright, I'll see you down there back in the old town. Last night I was having a chat with the tour guide, and he was brainstorming a little bit with me about how both his tour can grow and how tourism could grow in Bratislava. And it seems like it's a bit of a frustration for him that a lot of people merely come here for day trips. Bratislava's very centrally located. It's less than an hour's drive away from Vienna, and it's in between Prague and Budapest, and there are other European cities that tourists visit that you can get to from here just by bus or train. It's basically right in the middle of a bunch of different places, and a lot of people don't take much interest in Slovakia. They come here, they taste some of the food, which is pretty popular. It's typical Central Eastern Europe, goulash, dumplings, a lot of meat and potatoes. So people come here, they taste the food, they maybe take a tour, they look at the new bridge, they walk around the old town, maybe check out the castle, but they tend not to venture off elsewhere into Slovakia, and they tend not to stay very long in Bratislava, even though it's pretty nice here. But that to me is kind of emblematic of where Slovakia is as a country. Granted, I have not spent much time here. I'm not very familiar with Slovak culture, politics, and whatnot. But something interesting popped up in the news this week. The Prime Minister of Slovakia was saying that he wants Slovakia to be part of the core group within the European Union. Right now within the EU, there's this hot topic called multi-speeds, which basically means that different countries are going to integrate, different countries within the EU are going to integrate at different speeds, at different rates, meaning some will be very integrated into the European Union monetarily in terms of the euro, maybe fiscally in the future in terms of possibly a common budget, militarily possibly, they're talking about an EU army. Anyway, there are all sorts of types of integration within the EU. Some countries are in Schengen, the passport-free zone. Some countries are not. Well, it's interesting that the Slovakian Prime Minister brings that up because, well, I'll show you right where I'm standing at the moment. I am turning around, and there you go. I hope you can see it. It says Visegrad Fund, and what the Visegrad group is this group within the EU consisting of Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Hungary, and Poland. And in a sense, they are the leaders in combating Brussels. These are the countries that have been taking the lead in fighting Germany and Chancellor Angela Merkel's open door policy to the refugees. These countries have been fighting to not let a single refugee into their country. They're pretty conservative socially, as is much of Eastern Europe. Europe is very divided, not just on refugees, but on a lot of issues. But anyway, so the Slovakian Prime Minister is saying that he wants his country to be with the core group, with Germany, with France, with those that are extremely integrated into all of the European Union institutions. Yet his country is a member of this Visegrad group, which is basically battling the EU and trying to, in a sense, set up a different style European Union that's more conservative socially and possibly where there's a little more national sovereignty, although that's a different topic for a different day. And from my understanding, what this Visegrad Fund does is they issue grants. From what I saw on their website, the Western Balkans is a leading place. They issue grants from the funds they raise for projects that presumably advance their agenda elsewhere in Europe. And in the case of the Western Balkans, more so it's been Austria, but yeah, Hungary and the Visegrad group as well. They've really been partnering with countries like Macedonia during the refugee crisis to shut down or at least contain the refugee flows. So here we are in Bratislava, right in the heart of Europe, and it kind of gets at this issue of where the heck is the European Union going. And it's interesting when you put together some of the pieces, how Bratislava, which you can see from the little tour I'm giving you and the photos, how Bratislava is so centrally located in Europe, not just physically, but culturally, politically, so that it's right by the Austrian border. And during communism, it was right at the dividing line between East and West. It was on the communist side of the Iron Curtain, but just barely. And it's right by Hungary, right by Austria. It's surrounded by these more popular tourist destinations, which puts it right in the middle of Europe and makes for an advantage but also a disadvantage in terms of attracting people and keeping them here. And then also it's right in the middle of Europe politically, and even though communism is gone and Slovakia has advanced beyond its neighbors in that regard in terms of European integration, they use the euro here, whereas its neighbors don't. Czech Republic does not use the euro, Poland does not use the euro, Austria does, but Hungary does not. So Slovakia is in this wishy-washy position. How European is it going to be in modern Europe, where it essentially means taking in refugee flows and change in demographics, change in culture? That in a sense has become the new Europe. But Slovaks poll, maybe I just saw a poll, I don't remember whose it was, but I believe that out of all nations in Europe, Slovaks were the least open to intermarriage and other things having to do with diversity and race and multiculturalism. So Slovakia as a country is not multicultural, and it's in this Visegrad group, yet it's pursuing this path of full-speed European integration. So we'll see where it goes from there. As for now, it's just an interesting place for me to visit, and I hope you enjoy some of the sights and scenes. And I gotta head out to Vienna, so goodbye from Bratislava.